think I have everything calibrated right. If I don't, that is completely editing Mithy's fault. It's not this Mithy's fault. So I just came back from watching the Batman. That was like, I want to say about 3 hours ago, maybe 4 hours ago. So I guess I've had time to think about it, but I still don't feel like I've had enough time to think about it, I guess. This movie was a lot. This movie really was a lot. I mean, ever since that camera test came out back in, what is it, 2019 at this point? And then we got a trailer, and then we got another trailer, and it's been just this year after a year after a year of just anticipation. I mean, yeah, there's a Spider-Man movie coming out. There's a Bond movie coming out. There's a bunch of other movies. But I mean, pre-pandemic, this was like the thing that everyone was excited for. And throughout this whole pandemic, this is the one movie that everyone has been excited for. And I have been excited for. And now that I've watched it, I still feel like I kind of didn't watch it, if that makes sense. Like, I know I went and saw it 3 hours ago, but I know people have been talking about not feeling the long runtime. But I think I still kind of did feel the long runtime because I keep having to remind myself, wait, this happened, and then this happened, and then that happened. And it's one of those movies that's going to have to sit with me for a bit. It's one of those movies where I'm going to have to think about it, watch it next week, watch it the week after, and really think about it and study it to the point where I understand the movie as a whole. Because a lot of stuff happens in this movie. And I don't think I'm still, like, I don't think I have a full understanding of it yet. So this really is a raw thoughts of raw thoughts. I mean, first off, from a technical perspective, Jesus Christ, the soundtrack is so good. Oh my goodness, the soundtrack is so good. I think it is my favorite Batman soundtrack. Just because it works so well with the sound design. Like those horror little elements with the Riddler, with the sound design of what happens in those scenes, they just mesh perfectly. And I think Giacchino and Matt Reeves and everyone working in production, they probably all were on the same page for every single step of it. That I'm really happy that, like, yes, I can enjoy the soundtrack on its own, but in the movie, it's perfect. And Something in the Way, man. Something in the Way is never in the way. It perfectly fits. That was a horrible joke. Don't keep that in. Just the entire soundtrack in general is fucking perfect. It's beautiful. It's perfect. Cinematography too. I mean, Greg Fraser is a godsend for all the movies that he's been a part of, from Lion to stuff on The Mandalorian to Dune to this now. It's just a perfect little puzzle of like shots that perfectly work well together. And those insert shots are so good. Like, it's not a distracting amount of insert shots. It's like a good amount of insert shots that complement the character work. You know, I think what I can really tell is, although there are individual pieces of technical work that really boost the film for me, they all work together really well. Matt Reeves and Greg Fraser and Giacchino and Pattinson and all these people, they're on the same page, and you can feel that with every scene, because every scene feels like a cohesive unit, you know? They really put in the effort to make sure that everything blended together really well and nothing feels out of place. And I think that's one reason why I still want to keep going back to this movie. I think it's probably the Batman movie with the best cinematography and the best soundtrack. I think that's a pretty hands down statement. The more I think about it, the less I really have to say plot wise, and like just about the movie in general. Like, I have thoughts, and I'm gonna think about this movie for a while, but I don't have that many things to say about it. And I guess those are the marks of a perfect movie, right? Is when you come out of the movie and say, yeah, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about this. This is perfect. That's perfect. And, you know, I think those are very good signs to me. I feel like there were times in the movie where I may have been not bored, but like kind of taken out of it just because of the slow pacing. And I don't know if that's the movie's fault or that's just my fault for not really getting it, because I feel like I should get it, you know, and I should jive with those scenes. But then there are some times where I'm like, okay, I get it. I get the point. Can we move on to the next scene? And I feel like that's something that I'm just gonna have to rewatch it and try to pick out what those scenes are, and then see what's actually going on those scenes. And that's why I think that's, although that may sound like a criticism, I think that's just me needing more time to get accustomed to the movie and really understand why Reeves is choosing to spend this much time on a certain moment or this much time in another moment. So, I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. I think for a first watch, it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is long, and the movie is long. But I think over the next few weeks to months, I think I'm going to get more accustomed to that and feel a little bit more comfortable about that pacing decision. I gotta say, the relationships between these characters are it's really cool to see that on display. I think that's something this movie does that a lot of the other movies don't nail as well. I feel like with the Nolan movies, because I binged all the Nolan movies before this, there's so much meticulous crafting of a plot that feels seamless together, but then actual character moments are designated to only a couple of pair-ups. Whereas in this, every single conversation feels like it progresses the character in some way, whether it's Bruce talking with Alfred, or it's Batman talking with Catwoman, Batman talking with Gordon. All of these conversations feel like they show us something new about the characters. And I mean, that's something that can be taken for granted, but I think this movie does it really well where I'm not going to take that for granted. That's something that I think about coming out of this movie, is those specific dialogue sequences. Because, yeah, I love the action, which, first off, Batmobile chase, oh my goodness, that was perfect. That was absolutely perfect. I need more of that in every single movie, please. Because that was beautiful. But, I mean, those scenes are awesome, and those action scenes are awesome, but I'm coming away from this movie with those character interaction moments. And I think that's a testament of a good script. You know, I think this was a very good script from the ground up, and the way the actors delivered it was something to remember. Go watch the movie. I mean, really go watch the movie. Even if I mean, I loved it, but even if I didn't say I loved it, I feel like you would. This is the kind of movie you need to just watch in a theater and watch it and understand it and think for yourself, because this movie is going to mean something different to everyone. And I can kind of tell that even from just the first watches. People are going to have different interpretations of what goes on with the characters, what goes on with the character interactions, what goes on with Batman, and where they see the future of this universe going. So I think just go watch it for yourself, honestly, and then come to your own judgments. I guess I really don't have that many non-spoiler things to talk about. So yeah, I guess spoilers now. Get out of here. If you haven't seen the movie, please get the fuck out of here. But yeah, all right, spoilers. Jesus, man, that opening scene is like I know everyone memes on me for not liking Michael Myers because he's scary, and I'm like, oh, I'm so scared of Michael Myers. Oh, I'm not that scared of Michael Myers. I just haven't watched the movie, so shut the fuck up. But damn, that's a scary scene to open your film with. The Riddler is my phone background right now, and I feel like every time I look at this phone background, I just think of his visceral screams. Like every time I open my phone, I'm like, ooh, okay, my phone. And then I just think of the weird, muffled, screaming, psychopathic shit, and now I have to change my phone background, which I guess kind of sucks. The Riddler in this movie, I mean, I expected, okay, the Zodiac Killer, he's going to be creepy, he's going to be crazy, he's going to be extremely violent. And, I mean, you get that, but then Paul Dano also adds this thing to his vocal performance where I'm like, fuck, I don't want to be associated with you in any way. Like, I don't want to be your friend, I don't want to be your enemy, I don't want to be anything to you. Please get the fuck away from me. And I love that. I love that so much because, I mean, one side of the Riddler is just an annoying piece of shit, but then this version of the Riddler is so much of a, like, yes, he's an asshole, but he's just a degenerate piece of shit that you just want to be away from. And I love that. I think that really works for this version of the universe, I guess. Penguin's cool. That that Spanish joke or whatever was kind of funny. I found myself laughing there. And I mentioned this to Dalen when we watched it, but like when Batman drives away And then Gordon drives behind him, and he's just tied up, and he's like hopping around, like trying to follow them, and he's hopping like a penguin. I don't, I don't know if that was deliberate. I think it was, but I just thought it was funny. Also, that shot where he's talking to Batman, and like, because like Batman turns around and it's like when you first meet Oz, and he's like, "Hey, you're the Batman. You crazy, and then you see I'm Oz. Nice to meet you." And it felt like I don't hate it. I think it's great. I think it's funny, and I think it's fucking beautiful. But like also it feels like they just kept rolling on Colin Farrell to just keep talking the whole time, and he just gave like 5 different lines, and they just kept all of it in because it was fucking funny. I gotta say, from the moment Selena showed up and Zoe Kravitz just looked at Batman, I was like, oh shit, these two are gonna have chemistry. And they have such a nice, like, silent chemistry. I mean, so much of chemistry is based on the dialogue that these characters have, but it's just the way that they look at each other and they talk with each other. And even that one scene where Batman's like, "Look at me," and then he looks into her eyes, and he's like, "Okay, you're good." It's like, these are the kind of things that I feel like would exist in the real world with these characters. I mean, that's the point, right? Is to make these versions of the characters feel like as grounded as possible, which even from the opening scene, I mean, I feel like when we were looking at the behind the scenes and we were looking at all this shit, we were like, oh, it's like Art Deco, so we don't know what time period it is in. But I think from the moment the film starts, when you see the news on the TV and you see the live broadcast and you see the way that other characters talk with each other that aren't necessarily just Batman, you know it's in modern day. You know it's in modern day. You know this is the modern day version of Batman. And I think that's actually something I really liked because, I mean, not that it wouldn't work in live action, but I think animation does the Art Deco kind of mysterious time setting thing better just because it is animation and it's given that freedom. In live action, you could do it in a really good way, or you could do it in a way that looks like crazy Tim Burton on some kind of drug. And like this, I like that this was able to do kind of both, where it's kind of crazy, and Gotham is pretty fucking crazy with all these people with their masks and their weird shit and their drugs and their drops and everything. But then also, I mean, people are watching live broadcasts, people are listening to the news, people are going trick-or-treating around, they're wearing hoodies. You know, it's still a modern world, and I like that they kept that grounded. I think this is really for, I mean for kids that are watching who are like in their, I guess I wouldn't suggest watching this if you're under 13, but kids who are watching this who are like 15, like 14 are going to be like, yeah, okay, that's my Batman because this was in my time period. This was my setting. This is my Batman. And I think that's really nice. That's something that shouldn't go unheard is that this is the modern day Batman. I think when we think about Batman and Jim Gordon's relationship, I feel like we think of a lot of different things. Like Year One paints it in a certain way, and then the Nolan movies paint it in a certain way, then everything else kind of paints it in a certain way. And this, the whole casual thing of Jim Gordon just calling him even man, like, hey man, I've known you for like 2 years and I don't even know your real name. And it's like, okay, that's good stuff. That is good stuff. That is chemistry building stuff. And like, you can see these guys being, I mean, they're kind of friends, you know, and I like that. I like that Jim Gordon kind of sees him as a last retreat at first, but then over time is like, no, he's a good guy. I'm going to work with him. I just need to be careful. And I really like that. I really like that dynamic doesn't take some weird forced, like, I don't trust you and then you don't trust me and now we're going to break up. It's like, no, they do trust each other because they've been trusting each other for 2 years. And I really like that they keep that up. That doesn't break and that doesn't feel like, I guess, disingenuous for the characters. The Falcone stuff really got me thinking because, like, because I watched The Long Halloween Part 2 a few weeks ago, and I really loved that, and I really what they do with Falcone in those movies where, I mean, Falcone is a monster, and this movie makes it clear to you that Falcone is a fucking monster. He's a horrible human being. But there's still, like, this, like, I don't want to say nobility, because it's not nobleness. It's, like regality, I guess, like some like kind of royal feeling to his character, and I think that's what makes some of The Long Halloween so strong, is that even though he's kind of a shit person, he's a horrible human being, at least there's like level of respect that people have for him, and then you see how that respect transfers to everyone else. And I mean, I feel like there's going to be a lot of discourse about the way Batman's parents died, and like, oh, okay, well, first it was just a random person that killed him, and then no, it was a Marino. I can't even talk. It's the Maronis that killed him, and oh no, now it's Falcone, and they sent people after him, and it's kind of this mess of these three things, and my interpretation of it is that it's still very up in the air. Maybe Falcone sent people to kill him. He probably did. Who knows? But maybe it was just a normal guy. And I like that it leaves that open to interpretation. And I also really like the idea that Thomas Wayne could have been a good person. You know, like he made a mistake. He went to Falcone to try to fix this thing. But it wasn't out of malicious intent at first. It was just, I just need to save this from destroying my wife's life. And I like that. I think that's a good medium between the Telltale of they're bad people and the Batman Begins of they're the soul of the city kind of thing. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, they are the richest people in the entire city, you know, of a city that kind of sucks. I mean, they're dead afterwards, but even before then wasn't the best city in the world. So you instinctively know they're maybe not the best people ever, you know. They've made mistakes, but it still gives Bruce a hope that his parents were good people and that he's fighting this fight for a good reason. And I like that. I like that it's a good kind of balance between both of those ideas of Thomas and Martha Wayne are terrible people and Thomas and Martha Wayne are good people. I think this is a good balance of that. I mean, I see the big criticism of, oh, Bruce is, even Riddler says it, right? During that one scene. Where it's like, oh no, Bruce Wayne, you that's actually the mask. Your real face is the one I'm seeing right now, and it's because Batman is the real person. And I feel like it's not that simple. It's kind of the same conversation people have about like the Spider-Man origin story stuff of like, oh no, his origin movie is actually No Way Home, and it's like I don't think it's ever that simple. To me, at the end of the day, Bruce is just a person, and all of Batman and all of what he does, even as Bruce, has been to work through the pain that he had as a child, right? And so his identity of like who he is really always changes, always is malleable, you know? At first when he starts, and at least I guess Matt Reeves' take on it and Pattinson's take on it is at first he is a mess of a person. He's a complete just mess of a human being, and he makes mistakes and he doesn't really know what he's doing, and he's fueled by just vengeance. It's I am vengeance. That's who I am. And I really like that. I mean, not that everything changes in this 1 week for him, but over the course of this week he really does get a more realized picture of what he's trying to do. And it's not as simple as just vengeance. It is about hope, and it is about instilling people who aren't the scum of the city that he's faced night and night after again. It is about inspiring hope to the people who he's saving, you know. And I think I like that because, you know, you start the movie where he's looking at this civilian who's about to shit his pants because he's scared Batman's gonna kill him, to what is probably my favorite scene in any DC movie ever, and maybe over time will be my favorite scene ever. I don't know, but man, that entire third act where he's saving people, like actually saving people, it's beautiful. It is fucking beautiful. It is. I almost cried in the theater. It's my favorite scene in any Batman movie. It's just him cutting the rope, the electric wire, sinking into the river, and then lighting a torch to lead people to safety. And then when the National Guard comes in, just pulling more people out, as many as he can, and saving as many lives as he can, because he knows now that, I mean, he says it, right? Vengeance isn't the answer. And like, that's something that I don't think I'm the only one person that wanted that, you know. I think other people wanted that too, but that's something that feels personal to me. And that feels like something that I've wanted from a Batman movie for so long. And you get inklings of that in the animated movies, but this is different. This feels different, and this feels so real when he puts that lady in the stretcher and she grabs his arm and he touches her arm. I'm like, fuck, that's a human moment. That's what It doesn't matter if Bruce Wayne is the mask or Batman is the mask. This person is trying to do the right thing, and now he's kind of figured out what the right thing looks like. And that's such a triumphant moment for me. And that's a moment that I'm just going to keep repeating on and on and on and again and again and again, because that's just a perfect moment. That's a perfect moment. That's something that's going to stick with me for a very, very long time. I mean, what else happened in this movie? It's long as shit. That Joker cameo, that was fine. I'm going to be honest. Like, I mean, you don't get a good look at him. It's a strange design, but like, it's fine, I guess. I don't know if they're even going to bring the Joker back. Maybe it's just a tease or a joke. I'm sorry. That's horrible. But yeah, it's fine. I feel like that's not the point of the movie. And I think when they're talking about, oh, we removed a scene for test audiences, that's definitely the scene where they're like, oh, we removed this and we put it back in because we don't know what to do with it. That's definitely the scene. Because it's like, what do you do with that? Everyone's asking for the Joker because no one can shut the fuck up about him. So yeah, you put him in a scene because he's fun. And maybe you can do something with him later. If I'm going to be honest, like, this Riddler is great. I have a hard time seeing how they could do anything with him in the future. Because he's such a fucking psychopath. But I mean, the real Riddler is also a psychopath. So maybe he does something. He has a cult following, right? So you could do something with that, I guess. Everyone's also talking about doing Hush and stuff like that later. I think Hush is a good third movie villain. Because it's you make it Catwoman related too, and you can do something interesting there. This movie really showed me. I mean, I want a Robin in these movies. I really want a Robin in the next movie, and I think there's a way to do that. That honestly, Troy probably knows more about that one comic that's supposed to be good at introducing Robin than I do. But something like that where you kind of show that as Bruce is slowly figuring out what he needs Batman to represent to the people of Gotham, a kid comes in to show him this is what it can lead to. This is the potential of what you can do as Batman, is inspire kids to do good and inspire the people of Gotham to do good, not just you. You don't need to carry the burden forever. You can let other people into your life and let them help you on your journey. And I think this movie, the sequels, I feel like they could do that. I feel scared to say I have complaints about this movie because I can't really pin them down. It's just that there are a couple things where I'm like, this dragged on for a while. And I feel like if I just watch it again, I'm not going to have those complaints. So I don't feel like saying them. But I feel like for the next movie, I want them to hunker down a little bit on like a villain. Because this movie, I mean, the second act happens and you forget that the Riddler exists, kind of. Because, like, the second act happens, then Falcone gets shot, and you're like, oh, fuck, the Riddler's in this. And, like, I don't think that's a massive problem or anything, but I feel like if the next movie is just like, okay, it's Mr. Freeze. What's going on with Mr. Freeze? And just do that. Or, like, oh, it's Clayface. We're just going to do Clayface. What's going on with Clayface? I feel like that might make for a better story. I'm not sure. Because, like, you look at Batman movies in the past, and like Dark Knight did Two-Face and Joker, and then Batman Begins did Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul, and then Rises did Talia and Bane, I guess. But so it's always they're doing two villains at once, and it's like, that's fine. But I want to see a Batman movie that's just, here's the main villain, here's your catharsis with the main villain. I feel like that would be an interesting change of pace for these kind of movies. But I mean, it's up to Matt. It's up to what Matt wants to do. It's up to what Bob Patty wants to do. I feel like they have earned the trust of fans, and they have earned the trust of this Bat brand, that I think they can do whatever the fuck they want and still make it successful. The thumb drive joke was funny. It was funny. This movie does, like, I mean, obviously it doesn't do MCU humor, but like it does a good, like, funny little things where he's like, thumb drive. I'm interested in this No Man's Land setup. Like, because it's like everything's flooded and they brought in the National Guard and they're going to help clean up Gotham and clean up the bureaucracy. It's probably going to involve Harvey Dent or something like that too. I'm interested how they could do the next movie as like a no man's land thing, because that makes it feel like they're going to do a bunch of villains, but maybe that's just like an ongoing thing, like in the background. Like, oh yeah, Gotham is like fucking flooded all the time, and that's kind of a problem, but we're solving the issue slowly. And like maybe that's not necessarily a central focus of the future movies, but just like a background thing to keep the universe expanding. I feel like that would be an interesting idea. Also, this makes me think about what that PD show is going to be, because that's supposed to be based in year one, which I assume is more Gordon shit. But I don't think Gordon is in that show. And so that means I guess Batman won't be in that show. So maybe it is really just like a mob thing where the mob slowly starts infiltrating the police, and then they're like, maybe there's like one officer who tries to get out, but at the end he can't do it and he gives up and he dies or something. I don't know. I'm interested in the show though. I don't know who they have working on it creatively other than Matt, but I mean, I'm interested. This movie got me interested, so I'm interested. That post-credit scene makes me feel like, okay, they're gonna bring back Riddler, even though it's like a little joke. But I don't know. I feel like if they bring him back, he should just be like in a cell for like a scene, and he should taunt Batman about something. I guess he knows Batman's Bruce, but he's not really gonna do anything with that information. So that's fun. I mean, he doesn't have to. You can just have him chill in his cell with the Joker as they exchange notes. Oh God, is the next movie going to be War on Jokes and Riddles? I mean, Catwoman, Batman, Joker. I don't know. It's weird because it's a dark film. I still think kids can enjoy it, and my takeaway with any Batman film these days has been, all right, Batman movies in the sense are for kids eventually, right? Kids are going to get to watch these movies. Kids are going to grow up with these movies. I mean, that's what it was with the Nolan movies. The Nolan movies are mature movies, you could say, but I mean, they are PG-13. I'm trying to think of like, what would a kid's reaction to this movie be? And I mean, it's cool as shit, and it's 3 hours long. So I think it's harder for a kid to watch this. Plus, it's darker. So I do think it's harder for a kid to watch it. I don't think it's necessarily meant for kids the same way I think a kid could more easily watch something like Batman Begins. But I think that's fine. I feel like the more they do with this universe, the better. And I feel like the more they do something, either with, not to shoehorn him in. If they don't want to shoehorn him in, they shouldn't do that. But the more they do something with Dick Grayson, or the more they do something with the Robins or the Bat family, I think that would be nice. But who knows? Maybe they might not, because they're doing the Batgirl movie with Keaton. They might do a Nightwing movie, but it's probably not going to be in this universe. So yeah, who knows? Maybe just let Matt do his own thing. And if he wants to get there eventually, he can. But if he doesn't want to, I guess, what are you going to do, right? I feel like I went in with unachievable high expectations. And at the least, this movie met that, And I think that's something I shouldn't have done, is gone in with high expectations. Because something like Spider-Man, I went with no expectations. So when the movie was really good, I was like, fuck. And with this, I'm like, this movie's going to be amazing. And I came out, and it was amazing. So I'm not here to like make a prophecy about something in the future. It was a good movie. It was a great movie. I can see myself watching this more in the future. And it's cool that it's coming to HBO Max sooner than later. So I will definitely, I don't know if I'm going to make a video on it, but I might make a video on just that moment alone. That moment is beautiful. I think when that third act happened, because people say the third act was slow, and I guess it is a little bit. It goes to a little bit more of a lull. But when that scene happened, I was like, fuck. Yeah, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing with this character, and I trust them with this character. Whereas I think in the first half of this movie, I was like, they're doing a lot of shit. What's the point here? I like it, but what's the point? And once it came to that moment, I'm like, yeah, okay, they nailed something. They have something down. And so I'm just excited to see what happens next, In the meantime, I guess I have to watch The Flash. That movie looks like shit. But yeah, the Batman. Go watch it. I mean, your spoiler section, so you've already watched it. Go listen to the podcast we do with Troy on it, I guess. Young Justice video coming soon, even though I say that literally every single fucking time I'm on the air. Thanks for 1K subscribers. I don't know if I said that audibly yet, but thanks for 1K subscribers. I mean, I don't have anyone here with me, so I can't like make a joke to someone behind the camera unless I'm like schizophrenic and I'm making a joke with, Paul over there, I guess. But I'm not going to do that because I'm not a crazy person like the Riddler, which, speaking of, I'm going to change my background right now because Jesus Christ, it's fucking... He's so scary. He's so, like, I'm not going to freak out and I'm not going to make a new Michael Myers meme, but look at his fucking face. He's so scary. He's like... Fuck. He's like... I'm going to fucking kill you. And it's like, okay, I get it, dude. You have mental problems. Fine. Just please get the fuck away from me because you're creepy as shit. Also, Jesus Christ, it's late. I need to go to sleep. What the fuck? How do I end these videos? I don't know how to end these videos because I'm kind of just going off for like a while right now. And my finger is on the record stop button, but I'm not pressing it out of fear. Also, don't eat the Batman calzone because it's going to upset your stomach and make you want to throw up. That's the real point of this video. Is don't eat the Batman calzone because it's bad.